Hey everyone, welcome to another video. Today we're going to talk about issue number 11 of X-Men From the Ashes, written by Jed MacKay. But before we dive into the story, I want to ask you a favor. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and a comment to help the channel grow. So with that said, this issue of X-Men opens with a ball of fire crashing in the Canadian outback in a gigantic explosion, an explosion that will have a part to play later on in the story. With that going down, we then transition over to Beast going over a chart of one of the mutants they took in after her X gene manifested. And while he looked over the charts, he pointed out how fascinating her gene markers were within her X gene. And then Beast went on to say it appears that Jennifer possesses some range of metamorphic ability, which led Beast to ask her to tell him if when she was fleeing the upstarts, was she near water. To which she replied by saying, "Yes, I had thought that I could escape by jumping in the Detroit River. It was crazy a thought, it was winter, but that was when I changed." She was so shocked that she forgot all about it. So with that stated, Beast returned to the floor and summarized everything by saying, simply put, while she has currently assumed an ichthyoid expression, the veritable menagerie of genomic templates within her indicates that it is but one form she may assume. So to confirm that, Beast suggests a quick test to confirm his findings, and he does that by telling Jennifer to think about flying, soaring, and diving like the way she would in a dream. And after a moment of focus and concentration, Jennifer opened her eyes and found herself shifting into yet another form just like Beast predicted to happen. Now this shocked Jennifer because she thought nothing happened until she opened her eyes. So with a little better understanding of her gift, Beast assured her that with a little bit more practice she would be able to shift into a lot more forms. Following that, Jennifer then had to ask the ultimate question, and that was if one day she would be able to shift back to how she used to look before this all happened. To this, Beast replied by saying he doesn't have the answer to that yet, and the only way to find out is to continue with more experiments. So with hopes high, out of nowhere Scott dropped in on all minds psychically and said, they have a situation, and the base team should move to status 7 because the field team is currently in the air. And on the next page, we see Cyclops and his squad taking off, and as they traveled, Cyclops asks Quentin if Kate knows that he stole her ship, to which Quentin answers by saying he didn't steal but instead salvaged it, and then continued to say he could see that Scott isn't up to date with his maritime law. To which Scott laughed and said, "Well, have fun explaining the finer points of it to her when she finds out." Following that lighthearted moment, Cyclops stated that 20 minutes ago, they picked up what looks to be a spacecraft entering the atmosphere over Canadian airspace. Normally they wouldn't care, but this spacecraft crashed, and now whoever was in it is making a beeline to the Yukon-Alaska border at high speeds. And the projected end point of the beeline is Melee or the factory. So who or whatever they are dealing with, they don't want them getting to their home. Because the town is already shaken up enough by one's visit earlier, so they don't need them blaming them for bringing aliens to their doorstep too. So to cut their time of travel, Cyclops then states, Magic and Quentin have an intercept course plotted, so he will need them to interface with the X-Drive and jump them there. With those orders given, on the next page, we see the man on his vehicle speeding through the snow as Magic did as she was asked and jumped the entire ship to his location. So as the Marauder's ship came barreling down on the visitor, Cyclops informed the visitor of who he was and said he was broadcasting from the Marauder across all known galactic languages using the Shuriar Universal Translator, and if you've come looking for the X-Men then you've found them. And then said, if you've come looking for a fight, I'd advise against it. And in a twist of events, the visitor removed his helmet to reveal Corsair saying, "Is that any way to talk to your father?" Now this shock prompted Scott to tell Quentin to land their ship immediately. And on a side note, I love how Quentin is so focused on Cyclops' father's mustache. But anyway, once the ship is on the ground, Scott quickly hugged his father and said it was good to see him, and then followed it up by asking what was his angle. So as Corsair looked taken aback, Magic walked out expecting to see aliens, only to see the last person she wanted to see. So with that happening, Scott continues to say, "You're Corsair, scourge of the space lanes, and you always have an angle." But before he could answer, Magic came storming out of the ship and shouted that Corsair was dead meat, and then asked if he thought she forgot that Corsair just left her and her team to the Shi'ar and ran off with his tail between his legs back in New Mutants issue number 1. So as Magic started to get closer, Corsair tells her to stay back, because they have a situation and they couldn't afford to fight right now. But before he could say what it was, Magic punched him right in the face. So with the drama playing out, the rest of the team watched on from the ship and questioned if they should do something about this and quickly chose to stay put. But as the show was going on, the Marauders got a message from Beast saying he just picked up a huge gravimetric pulse for something opened a Stargate just at the edge of the atmospheric envelope, and they're on an intercept course with them, which means they were about to have company. So with all hell breaking loose outside, Quentin shouted for them to stop screwing around and prepare for an emergency evac because the Marauders are lifting off now. And in a fit of frustration, Corsair continues to shout that he told them they had a situation, and then continues to say, "Do you think he crashed on Earth because he was a bad pilot?" Now this prompted Cyclops to get serious and told him to explain. To which Corsair pointed up and shouted, "They've been on him since Kree and Skrill space, and any lead he had on them was wasted by fighting with magic." And then on the next page, we see a gigantic vessel entering onto the scene. So with the race against the clock on, Cyclops yelled for Quentin to get the craft airborne immediately. As shots rained by our team, Cyclops points out how the enemy's ship was an Acanti, a space whale that was converted into a warship. So with the ship being alive, Cyclops ordered Quentin to do a brain scan, but quickly Quentin noticed that the ship had zero conscious thought like it had been lobotomized. But as for the people on board, there are about a dozen minds comprised of Skrull and Badoon. So with that said, Cyclops ordered Quentin to keep them out of range of their weapons, so Temper could return fire. Which was perfect for her, so with their marching orders given, Cyclops then told Juggernaut, Psylocke, and Magic to board the craft with him as his boarding party. So with that all mapped out, Corsair attempted to get Scott's attention, but Cyclops wasn't trying to hear it and instead told his father that he brought this down on them and put his people in danger in order to get some bounty hunters off his own back. And without another word to his dad, Scott told his team to let's go as they jumped into a portal, straight into danger. So with the team off doing their thing, Temper swung open their door and started to let out her flame at the direction of the incoming ship. Now this attack from Temper was super effective, because according to the crew on board, Temper's attack cooked 30% of the force sensors on their ship. So with all hell breaking loose, the Skrulls stated that they needed the summer creature alive in order to get the payday that was promised to them. With the X-Men arriving on the scene, they quickly started to raise hell, so with the fight officially on, we then transition over to Corsair telling Quentin that he needs to talk to Scott. To which Quentin stated sure why not, patching you into the Team Psychoms. And once he was in, Corsair was in, he told Scott to listen to him, because this entire mercenary battalion opened a Stargate to Earth that cost 1 billion credits. Now the Shi'ar hates him, but his bounty is only at 2.5 million credits, because the bounty hunters aren't after him. Now this confused Scott because he heard that they were after a Summers. And after a little bit of time, he realized that everyone around him was wearing ruby quartz armor which reflected Scott's laser. Then at that point, the truth started to set on him as his father told him that he came to Earth to warn him that this group was after him. So as Scott stood there surrounded, Quentin shouted out, "Damn it." And right when things started to look bad, a message came in and stated, "This is Vindicator operating under Department H clearance and they have been authorized to operate in U.S. airspace for this engagement and are en route to support them." Now this prompted Quentin to say this literally means nothing to him. Now the Vindicator replied by saying what that means, "You little punk, is that this mess started in Canada and we clean up our messes." And on the last page, we see the Alpha flight inbound and ready to fight. And with that said, this issue comes to an end. But anyway, down in the comment section below, let me know your thoughts about this issue and what predictions you could have moving forward. So with that established, I hope you enjoyed this video, and please don't forget to leave a like and a comment if you want to see more videos like this. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.